Has the market changed its mind about what the Fed may do next?
We have got to get inflation behind us. I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't.
I think this is a two-part policy mistake of historic proportion.
I think the odds of a recession in 2023 are very high.
I think you'd offer the American people an apology.
Okay, good morning, welcome, or good evening. I'm Christopher Crystal with Financial Stockholm. Today is Thursday, October 6th, and the views on the Swedish market and what we're seeing, what we're thinking about. The Swedish press is a little quiet today about the Swedish economy. I guess with only 10, 11 million people, they don't feel there's so much to write about, and maybe they feel that the points that they've been making are already made, and so they'll review them on Monday. But we here in Sweden, we have our Swedish government continuing to move forward to a eventual coalition. We see rumors about a little bit of in-house fighting between the parties. The second largest party in Sweden maybe doesn't want one of the smaller parties that's part of their coalition in the government, and that's really fueled by retaliation because that party didn't want to deal with the second largest party. And so we really we'll see what happens. We'll see about the stability of this government. Maybe this does not bode well for how this government will function, but certainly it's moving forward slowly. Norway is coming out with their GDP, what their expectations are, and we see comments about how they're going to be relying on their oil reserves, which is only natural, and makes such a significant portion of what they do and why they're so well known in the world, with 2% of the oil reserves globally, or 2% of the production being used. Sweden does get about 13% of Norway's production, and that does factor into our GDP and how we need it. But we don't really have any pipelines going from Norway to Sweden. Instead, we have a LNG port down in Gothenburg, and that's owned by SwedeGas, which is a Dutch company. And so we do have an LNG port, and that was all the way back. If you go to 2010, there were the start of the discussions and the approvals and so forth. And I believe the construction started in 2017-18. And so that's our LNG port. And although we probably would have the reserves in the Baltic Sea to do natural gas, it doesn't look like anything this government will approach because of our ESG policies. And you see the recent policies in Holland, where they're turning off the gas when they need it the most, and letting their people go through a cold winter. And I think it's a reality. But so when Nord Stream 2 is shut down, and by the way, the Swedish and Danish governments are not allowing Nord Stream itself to investigate what's happening with the pipes, and they're getting backup from a British frigate to make sure that the area is secure. We'll see what happens and where we're going to get our natural gas from. So it could be from places like Nigeria. Maybe Turkey's going to be fueling into Southern Europe, and which leaves us with good old Uncle Sam and the LNG ships coming over. Now, on that note, you are seeing a spike, and have seen a spike since the explosions in the Nord Stream pipelines, of LNG shipping rates. So you can look and see what Shell's doing there, and the rates are spiking. But I think also what's interesting to note is the oil rig day rates are holding relatively steady, and we'll see how we're going to get through this winter, what we're going to do for power. Germany is the main power producer for Europe. We do produce a certain amount of our power. We have done hydro. That is more weather dependent than people think, and we'll see what happens and how this develops for the winter with the gas prices. But those would be areas to look at, maybe on the pipeline producers if you're going a little bit longer term, and the LNG shippers, and what's going to come. Currently, the United States provides about, I think, 5% of the LNG gas needs for Europe, and Norway was producing somewhere between 22 and 25% of the gas needs for European power production. And so we're looking at hopefully a mild winter, but we do have the power needs. We have had our freeze out announcements coming from the governments where we'll see no power, and we'll see how that affects the GDP. But that's certainly an area of focus for us. And you are seeing some impact, within the retail space within Sweden. You have stores that are not paying the rents. So Indisco is focused in an article today where they're not able to, or they have not paid their rent. So they may have some shops being closed down. And that's on the back of the 7th month of declining trend for in-store shopping. And we've also seen that the internet trade is dropping down slightly as well. So that does not bode well. On a positive, we do see Skanska benefiting from building up escalators in New York City subways. It's not sure how many people will be using those escalators due to the problems they have with the subways in New York, but they did get a Big Apple contract, so we'll see how that goes. And in general, we don't have much else coming out of Sweden. We're still watching and waiting. And with that, I'll wish you a great day, and thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye.